All right, what's good, guys? This is part 3 of the steroid boot camp. We're going to be going over blood work today. This is going to be a blood work deep dive, how to read labs and how to identify red flags. If you want to keep up with this series, make sure to subscribe, like as well if you like the video, but subscribe so that you get notified when I drop these. We're pumping out this motherfucking series until I get completed with the 20-part series. So, again, this is the blood work section, so you are going to know how to read blood work after this. Let's get right into it. We are going to be starting off with this, part 3, blood work deep dive. Let's get right into it. So, why is blood work critical before gear use? I always say this on my Instagram. I always say this everywhere. You have to make sure you are on top of your blood work if you are going to push a blast. If you want to run gear, if you want to take steroids, blood work is absolutely mandatory. People say all the time that it's optional, that you don't actually have to do this. Yes, you do, bro. This is so fucking crucial that you have to do. If you don't do your blood work, you don't know what's happening internally in your fucking system. So this is the only way, it's the only real way you're knowing what's happening internally with your organs, with your internal health. This is the only way that is basically guiding you on what to do in terms of side effects. So let's look at this real quick. Why blood work is critical before gear use. It ensures that your baseline health is solid before stressing your system. So this is very important if you are going to push a blast. You have to understand that you have to be in a good place prior to hopping on. If you are in any way fucked up, if you have any genetic problems, if your blood work is already messy to begin with, and then you hop on steroids, it's going to exacerbate the problem. It's going to make your side effects 50 times worse. It could potentially land you in the ER as well. So that's why it's very important to know that you are perfectly good prior to hopping on, and you have to get those baseline set of bloods done before you even hop on the blast. Your blood work is going to determine what cycle you run, what dosing you push, what compounds to take, and what compounds to steer clear from. So getting that baseline set is very goddamn important, guys. This identifies silent issues like liver strain, high hematocrit, low HDL, etc. It's very common for people to have pre-existing conditions, not even conditions, but just fucking problems. Look, everyone isn't healthy. Everyone has something wrong with them internally. No one's going to be a perfect specimen that is just perfect everywhere with their biomarkers. It's not realistic. That's not actually what happens in this world. Everyone's going to have some problems, and it's very genetically dependent on what you run into. So me personally, I have increased RBC values to begin with. I have high RBC values, high hematocrit, high hemoglobin. I come from a family of runners. My whole family is athletic. They were marathon runners. So of course, their shit's going to be boosted. Their RBC, hematocrit, and hemoglobin is automatically going to be high. I was given those genetics. Yes, that is a good thing. But if you're taking gear, that can be very detrimental to your health. If your blood gets too thick, then you can run into a blood clot, stroke, so on and so forth. So some people have liver strain. If you are a drinker, if you're an alcoholic, if you're popping pills, taking rec drugs, not even rec drugs, but just like ibuprofen. If you're taking Advil, I know a lot of people that just pop ibuprofen like candy, that take Advil every night, that just take random shit, bro. This will give you liver strain. So you have to make sure that your liver isn't already damaged. It isn't already messed up to begin with. You're not running into strain prior, low HDL, etc. If you're already having cholesterol issues, which most people do actually nowadays in society, then pushing a blast is, you have to make sure these are in range prior. You have to make sure your cholesterol is in range, because gear definitely does fuck with cholesterol. It's very common for tests to do this, VAR, mild compounds, and toxic compounds. It can really fuck with your HDL and LDL. So you want to make sure that these are always in range. It gives you a before reference to compare mid and a post cycle with your labs. Very important too. If you're saying like, okay, I'm going to hop into this, I'm going to get my bloods done once mid cycle, and then I'll be good, right? I still got my blood work done. No, you have to make sure you get it done pre-cycle as well. If you just get one set of bloods done mid cycle, you're not knowing what to reference. You don't know if you had a pre-existing problem. You don't know if the gear is causing that problem. Let's say that your kidneys are getting stressed. Let's say your bun, your creatinine is out of control. and you just get that mid set of bloods done. You don't know if the gear is causing this or if that was a problem prior. So if you think and you come to the theory that it is the gear that's causing this problem, you're going to take preventative measures to reduce this, maybe by taking some type of counteracting agent during the blast to make sure that your kidneys are good, when in reality you didn't need to take that and it was a pre-existing problem. So that's why it's really important to have that data, and why it's so crucial to be getting your blood work done multiple times during your blast. At the bare minimum, you want to get it done 3 times. If you're going to be very proactive, then you'd want to get it done maybe once, twice a month during your blast, and you're going to have so much fucking data to look back on to figure out how your body reacts to the shit, to figure out what you were running into before, to figure out what your body was like in a specific scenario on that given day. It's just more data for you to collect to make sure that you're running into a better, smoother sailing process with the cycle, mitigating more sides, being more effective with your results, so on and so forth. Now, this also prevents guessing and protects long-term health, as I was just mentioning. You don't want to be guessing problems. If there's something fucked on your bloods, you don't want to think, okay, maybe it's this part of my lifestyle, maybe it's because of my shitty eating, maybe it's because I party, maybe it's because the gear, maybe it's because of the cycle. You don't want to be going through that state of mind where you're having to fucking guess what is happening on your bloods. You want to know for a fact. You want to be able to pinpoint what is causing this. Is it something in your lifestyle? Is it something that's happening externally? Is it the cycle? Is it partying? Is it something you're taking pre-bed to go to bed? Like, you want to be able to pinpoint this shit. No guessing. That's how you're going to win with your cycle. Now let's move on to the next point here. The timing of your bloods, very important as well. So as a vague general baseline, as I mentioned, if you're going to do the bare minimum, get it done 3 times during your blast, pre, mid, post. You want to get tested at least 4 to 6 weeks before the cycle starts. You want to have a pure fucking baseline before you even get the compounds, before you even think about taking the cycle. You want to know where your body's at with the program you're on, with whatever you're doing. If you're eating junk food, if you're partying, if you are healthy, you want to know where you're at before the blast. You also want to avoid testing when you're sick or under extreme stress, because this can skew results. If you are sick, of course, shit's going to be off with your bloods, and it's going to give you suboptimal results. It's not going to be accurate to how you are normally when you're not sick, or if you're under extreme stress. This also will fuck with your results. So just make sure that you are normal. You're going in the right state of mind. You're not sick. You're just your normal self going in, getting your blood pulled at an optimal state, and that's going to be the best time to get your bloods done. You want to repeat your test mid-cycle and post-cycle for the comparison. If you're doing the bare minimum, that's what you're going to want to do. So timing your blood work, very crucial, as I already went over in the previous slide. Now, killing this out. The essential blood work panel. This is the nitty-gritty important shit that you have to understand for baseline and post-cycle and mid-cycle. Whatever you're getting your bloods, you want to get all this shit done. However, if you do run into a side effect on your blast, and let's just say that you see it on your mid set of bloods that something's off, you want to make sure you're taking the preventative measures to get that back into range, whatever biomarker that may be, and then go back in, get your labs for that specific panel on whatever biomarker is included there. Let's say that your RBC, hematocrit, and hemoglobin is sky high, right? Your blood's getting thick. You knew this and you figured this out mid-cycle with your mid-cycle set of bloods. Let's say you're running tests in EQ. Okay, your blood is getting thick. Okay, we know that that's happening from the EQ because you got your bloods done pre-cycle. You know that you're not running into this problem, and it started occurring after the blast, mid-cycle results. So what you're going to want to do is take preventative measures. We'll go over this in a future segment of the boot camp to bring that biomarker into check. And then you want to get your bloods done again about 2 weeks later after you've taken those preventative measures. But you only want to get those values checked. You don't want to have to waste fucking $300 on another full set of labs when you know that you're going in to check a specific biomarker. So in this case, you would get a CBC that tests all this shit. You would just go in, get the CBC, very cheap, probably 20 to 50 bucks. Get it, make sure everything's in range. And if it is, cool. If it's not, you want to take more preventative measures, go back in 2 weeks later, get the CBC again until it's in range. However, if you are going over everything and you're getting everything done at once, which is going to be at least at the bare minimum 3 times during your blast, you're going to get these panels. CBC, your complete blood count, very crucial. Your red blood cells, hemoglobin, and hematocrit. There are also some other factors, WBCs, white blood cell, and a couple other biomarkers on that test. However, these are the main crucial ones that you want to look out for. This is going to be tested on the complete blood count. And that's why it's very important. You want to make sure your blood is flowing smooth through the system. No issues. Your blood isn't getting thick. It's not getting too thin either. The CBC will tell you this information. CMP, Comprehensive Metabolic Panel, another very important one. This is for your organs, your livers, kidneys, electrolytes. This is going to make sure that you're not running into organ damage. Your liver, very important fucking organ, and so are your kidneys. You only get one set of fucking kidneys. If you start fucking with this and you get kidney damage, you're gonna have to get put on dialysis, maybe a kidney transplant, and a lot of the times that's not a smooth sailing process, and it ends in an early trip to the grave. So you always want to make sure you're on top of this. Now, if you're new, you're not going to be running into kidney problems unless you have genetic issues and you have a genetic predisposition to kidney problems. You're not going to run into this. But if you're more intermediate, more advanced, this is something that a lot of guys run into because they're pushing major amounts of growth, insulin, tren, and all this shit fucks with your kidneys. Once you get very deep into the game, your kidneys get a lot of stress. Your liver as well, if you are more intermediate or advanced, if you're pushing orals, if you're taking a shit ton of fucking orals, even some injectables will fuck with your liver, but typically orals are going to do the most damage if you're taking a shit ton of orals. VAR, fucking Halo, very like Winstraw, all these toxic orals that you don't realize are doing that much damage. You're just popping that shit like candy daily because that's what most people's protocols have them do. They take that shit daily. It's the same shit as downing pretty much a 750 ml bottle of vodka daily. If you're popping enough orals, it's to that extent having that type of fucking effect on your liver. So you have to stay on top of the shit. This DMP will test for all these biomarkers, and that's why you have to get that done as well. Your lipid panel, very important. Your cholesterol for cardiovascular strain, HDL, LDL, LDL, triglycerides. Those are some of the prime biomarkers on your lipid panel. Very important too. You do not want to run into cardiovascular problems. A lot of cycles will fuck with your HDL and LDL. They will fuck up your cholesterol. So you do have to make sure that you're getting that lipid panel. It's another crucial panel you have to get. Now, moving on, there is a part 2 for this because there's just so many fucking factors. It's actually going to be a 3-part slide for this one. So the next one's going to be your hormones. Total and free test, as mentioned in the last part of the boot camp. You want to make sure you're always on top of your hormones. You want these to be, if you watch the previous one, you want them to be stable. You want them to be synergistic with each other. You don't want one out of control. You don't want one in a surplus or in a decrease at like crash type shit. You want to make sure you're getting your full hormone panel done. All this shit will be in that panel. Your total and free test, estradiol, sensitive E2, SHBG, which is your sex hormone binding globulin, DHEAS, luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, LH and FSH, and prolactin. Very important for most of the short-term side effects you run into. That's right here. That's that hormone panel. These are the factors that will cause those short-term sides. DHT as well. This will all be included in that panel. Progesterone as well. There's some biomarkers. These are just the main ones you got to focus on. So always make sure you're on top of your hormone panel. If you're not getting your hormone panel done, you're doing something massively wrong. Because if these factors stay out of whack for too long, first off, you're going to run into crazy short-term sides, mental sides, cosmetic sides, but you're risking long-term damage as well if you leave these factors out of whack for too long. Infertility, getting shut down, having massive mental problems because of hormone imbalances. It's something that you don't want to play with, and this is one of the major key factors with your bloods. Now moving on here, that is going to be it for the blood panel. So once again, let's go over that. What you want to get, your lipid panel, CMP, CBC, and your full hormone panel. Get all those done every time you get a baseline checkup of your full blood work, and you are going to be A-okay. Now, once again, if you run into a side, it's going to be different. Your blood gets thick. Let's say your cholesterol is getting fucked. You just get that specific panel that includes that biomarker the next time you get your bloods done to make sure that it's going back into range. But when you're doing a overall baseline checkup, you want to get all those panels done. So make sure you have all of that saved, screenshotted, because that's very important. Now, another very, very important topic is going to be red flags that delay or cancel a cycle. So you guys don't understand the amount of people I've seen, clients that have hired me specifically for health related reasons with their blasts, and we had to completely cut the cycle off preemptively because they were running into complete massive fucking problems, massive side effects, and the only route to go was to end the blast early. There was no side mitigation at that point. They fucked up so hard. Multiple people this has happened to, that we had to cut the cycle off, and that causes its own set of issues. But at a last resort, if you're running into crazy sides and everything is so out of whack on your bloods, you just have to start back from square one. You have to completely cut the blast. And this is something you don't want to do. You want to be proactive. You want to know that all this shit is in check before so that this doesn't happen. And you want to know the red flags as well. So let's go over that real quick. All right. So, as mentioned previously, high hematocrit over 52%, that is going to give you the risk of thickened blood, a stroke, or heart strain. This is something that I have been a victim of many times. As mentioned, I have a genetic predisposition to high RBC, hematocrit, and hemoglobin. So this is definitely something I'm always on top of. I've donated blood a lot. I have taken a lot of nattokinase. I've taken a lot of taurine. I've taken a lot of compounds, citrus bergamot, to make sure that this is in range. But we'll talk about all that shit in another part of the boot camp. But this is a huge red flag. If your RBC, hematocrit, and hemoglobin levels start creeping up too fucking quick and they start getting into that risk zone, then you're at major risk of these problems, and this can lead to an early trip to the grave. So you want to always make sure you're on top of these values. You don't want your blood to get too thick. If you're taking a compound like Primo, like EQ, like EPO, which none of you should be taking, but this is one of the most toxic compounds when it comes to increasing these values. And that's why so many athletes, Olympic athletes, fucking UFC fighters take it, because it improves your performance drastically when it comes to endurance, when it comes to cardio. An increase of RBC, hematocrit, and hemoglobin will incredibly increase your cardio and your endurance. So this is something that you have to be on top of, is your hematocrit. Now, also poor liver markers, your ALT and AST elevated, also alkaline phosphatase, which I should have included in here. This is possible liver stress or disease or damage or failure over time. Now, this is something you always have to be on top of. Again, if you're drinking, if you're taking rec drugs, if you're taking over-the-counter pills or orals, this is going to cause this specific problem with your liver. Keep in mind, anything that you ingest orally is going to get processed through the liver. So your liver's doing a lot of goddamn work daily, and if you're putting very toxic compounds into there that shouldn't enter your system, you're going to run into liver stress. And if these get too high, your liver enzymes, it's not an immediate red flag. It is a red flag, but it's not an immediate danger. Your liver can take a lot of fucking stress. Your liver is a very strong organ. If your liver enzymes raise, that's fine. You want to make sure you're getting them back down. However, if they stay increased for too long, and if one of the factors is so goddamn skyrocketed, then you're at the risk of liver damage, of liver disease, of massive liver stress that will cause issues down the road. So you want to make sure you're on top of this. Now, low HDL, below 40, or high HDL is a heart health risk. Cholesterol, of course, is going to be a major cause of problems nowadays, even without gear. So a lot of people are already running into cholesterol problems, but gear can exacerbate this issue massively. You want to make sure you're always on top of your cholesterol. A lot of people throw this shit under the rug because they're like, oh, cholesterol, it's not affecting my organ or my hormones or my fucking blood thickness or anything else. Like, it doesn't really matter. If it's off, who cares? Bro, it does fucking matter. You have to stay on top of your cholesterol, because this will cause long-term heart damage. You don't want that to happen. Your heart is literally keeping your body alive. You have to make sure you're on top of your cholesterol. Now, low test baseline. This could indicate pre-existing hormone issues. Now, if you have a baseline test that is very low, maybe in the 150s, 200, 300, even 400 is considered low, then this is going to indicate hormone issues prior. You don't want to instantly hop into a blast. If you're having these problems, you should probably go see a doctor, someone that can diagnose you with what's happening, that can figure out if you should get on TRT or not. You don't want to push a blast if you have incredibly low tests to begin with. You want to figure out how you can get that back into the optimal range without a blast, because yes, when you take steroids, when you take testosterone, this is going to put you into that optimal range. It's going to put you well above that optimal range. So yes, you're going to feel incredibly fucking well, and you're going to feel great. But when you come off, it's going to be even worse. The recovery process and even a cruise protocol for someone that had a low baseline as opposed to someone that had an optimal baseline. These are the type of people that run into these are stories you hear with these people that come off and they end up fucking like offing themselves, bro, because they were already fucked to begin with and they put a temporary band-aid over that solution. Then they come off again and it's like 5 to 10 times worse than where they were baseline. And now they're in a massive hole. So you want to make sure that you're at least fixing this problem prior to hopping on. Talk to a doc or a TRT clinic about getting on TRT the legit way. If you're getting on TRT, don't be going through UGL. This is a long-term decision that you have to make, and you have to make sure that you're doing this all properly. You don't want to just be guessing shit. You want to go through a clinic and get real prescribed TRT if you are going to take this for the long haul. Now, also abnormal kidney markers, so your binding creatinine. Again, you only get one set of kidneys. If something fails, it's dialysis, bro. Dialysis. And then you're running into massive risk of an early trip to the grave. You're running into a massive risk of having to get a transplant. And if you're not financially there, if you don't have proper insurance, like organ transplants are not easy. Someone has to literally donate an organ, or you have to get it through other means to replace yours. This is a very rare thing to get. The United States, the world, they don't just have an unlimited supply of kidneys. It's a very high demand, low supply item. This is not just something where you're going in and getting a prescription. This is a literal organ. If it fails and you need a transplant, it's going to be a shit show, bro. Whatever way, even if it goes well, it's going to be a shit show. So make sure you're on top of these values. Do not let these get out of control. This is specifically for intermediate/advanced users pushing crazy amounts of growth in insulin and fucking tren and other compounds that affect your kidneys. Or it's for the people that have genetic predisposition to kidney problems. You have to make sure you're keeping an eye out on this stuff. Like every single thing I'm mentioning here is very important and should be treated the exact same way. You have to be on top of this. Now, extremely high prolactin. This can cause possible tumors or pituitary dysfunction. Now, if your prolactin is way too high, you're going to run into short-term sides, but also the long-term sides. And if your prolactin is crashed as well, you're also running a major risk of running into horrific long-term sides. So again, as I mentioned in the previous slide, prolactin is the silent killer. You don't want to get cancer. I don't know if I can say that on here, but you don't want to get that shit, and you don't want pituitary dysfunction. This can cause massive mental turmoil. So make sure you're on top of this shit, guys. Very important stuff. All right. Next up here is how to interpret results for the big picture. So this is what you want to do. You want all the major systems in optimal range before stressing them. Before getting on the blast, let me make this very fucking clear. Before getting on steroids, make sure that your biomarkers, your full baseline set of bloods with all the panels that I just mentioned, are in the optimal range. If something is a little off, or like a little bit in a surplus or a little bit at a decrease, that's fine, but you want to make sure you're at least taking preventative measures to get that back into range. You don't want to leave them like that, because if something's already off even slightly, that means that there's a little bit of a problem happening there. So don't just rub it off. You have to understand that if you're running into something before, treat it very serious, because when you hop on blast, it's going to get worse. It's not like a question of, is this going to get worse? It is going to get fucking worse. So you have to make sure everything's in the optimal range. All your biomarkers, they gotta be in range, bro. You wanna fix your deficiencies. If your vitamin D is off, get it in range. Low HDL, bring it back up. High inflammation, get it down before the cycle. Minimize any side effect you're running into off blast, and you're gonna have a very smooth sailing process with your cycle. Make sure your biomarkers are in check. It's gonna make this game a lot fucking easier. You want to compare your baseline versus your mid-cycle bloods to see how your body is reacting to the gear. So as mentioned previously, baseline to see how you are before the cycle, mid-cycle to see how your body is reacting to these compounds at their peak. When you're mid-cycle, all the compounds you're taking will be peaking in your system. That's when your body's going to be running into the most stress. That's a perfect time to get your blood work because you're going to see how your body's handling that shit internally at its worst possible point. So that's why it's very important, and that's why you have to do that. Then you also want to get your post set of bloods to make sure that you are fully recovered, to make sure that your body has fully recovered from all the stress. You want to make sure that your hormones are back being stimulated, your natural hormone production is back where it was prior to hopping on, considering the fact it was in an optimal range. Post-cycle labs, again, to confirm recovery and long-term safety. So that's going to be that one right there. Now, extra tips for blood work success. To conclude this is some extra pro tips for you to follow. You want to make sure that you fast 8 to 12 hours before the test. Now, I know that a lot of people, they have fucking weird schedules. If you, for whatever reason, have to eat before the test, make sure it's at least 8 hours before. Now, me personally, I make sure that I fast at least 14 hours before all my blood work tests that I go in and get, because I want my test to be as accurate as possible. And you are going to be recommended to fast for at least 14 hours. But if you are going to really push it, then you at least need to make sure that you're fasting for at least 8 to 12 hours. You will get accurate results, but I just like to be extra safe with mine and push it to 14 hours. So that's my program. Whenever I go and get labs, it's 14 hours before the test. I start fasting. My brain is fucking all over the place. You also want to make sure that you hydrate well. You want to avoid excess caffeine day of the test. So you want to make sure that you are definitely hydrated. You're on top of your water protocol. That may sound fucking stupid, but yes, water is a huge part of your health. You need to make sure you're at least downing over a gallon a day. If you are on cycle, you want to make sure that you're hydrating well even before the cycle. If you're dehydrated, it's going to skew the results on the test. So you want to make sure that you are very hydrated, and you want to do this consistently at least for a week before the test if you're not used to being hydrated. So make sure that you are very hydrated. You're drinking at least a gallon of water a day for a week prior to that lab work. You want to schedule morning draws. Hormones peak at the early time in the morning. So the other reason you want to do this, besides the hormone peak, of course, is the fact that you're waking up and it's going to be very easy to go get your labs and not fucking eat. If you schedule a afternoon appointment, a midday appointment, a evening appointment, you're going to have to fast that whole day. If you're not used to doing that, it's going to suck. Your day is going to suck. You're going to feel like a limp dick that's starving as fuck. And in some cases, you're going to end up eating before the test, which is going to skew the results. Make sure that you're always scheduling a early appointment as early as possible. So all you have to do is get out of bed, get ready, shower. Don't be a dirty fuck. Go shower, get dressed, go get the labs, and then go back and eat. So that's my program. That's what I always advise my clients to do. That's what I think you should do as well. You always want to make sure that you're scheduling a morning draw when it comes to your labs. You want to use, let's zoom in on this. Again, important point always for the last part of these boot camps. Use consistent labs for accuracy and comparisons. This is so fucking important, guys. The more consistent you get your labs done, again, what's the word? What is the word right here that you see on your screen? Consistency. Consistency is key. That's how you win. Consistent labs is going to make your life so much easier, because especially in the beginning part of this process of hopping on gear, you're going to be able to have so much data at your disposal for what's happening to your body pre-blast, when the blast starts, a couple weeks into the blast, mid-cycle, a couple weeks after mid-cycle, when your body's going through fatigue and it's like, get me off this shit, this is too much. After the cycle, you want as much data as possible, so the more you can get your bloods, the better, because this is how you really determine what the hell is going wrong. If you're running into a specific side, You want to know and be able to pinpoint that side. If you had a bad day for whatever reason, you got shot sleep, something was off with your lifestyle, you want to be able to see how that's affecting you. You want to be able to see when the hormones are peaked in your system from your cycle. You want to be able to see that. You want to see when it's exiting the system. You want to see after your body has recovered. You want to have that data as well. This is all data collection. You're going to have a very clear picture of how everything reacts in your system and how your body is responding to this with more data at your disposal. And that's why consistent labs are key. Everything is consistency with this game, with steroids, with cycles. The more consistent you are, the quicker you fucking win. If you try to go through this and just be a fucking hare in the tortoise and the hare story, you're gonna lose, bro. If you try to pump through this, you're like, I'm taking tren, I'm taking fucking growth and insulin off the bat. I'm not gonna get my bloods, I'll get them done once, I'll be fine. You're gonna lose. You will lose doing that, bro. Get as many labs as possible, regardless of what anyone says. The more data, the better. So that is going to be the wrap up for this section. Now, if you're going to take a telltale home point for this specific part of the boot camp, you want to make sure you're always on top of your bloods, your CMP, your lipid panel, your CBC, and your full hormone panel. Make sure you're getting these as much as possible. Get it done pre-blast, mid-blast, and post-blast if you're going to do the bare minimum. But if you really want to be proactive and get down to what happens and how your body reacts to these compounds early on in your enhancement career, get them done as much as possible, bro. Regardless of the cost, it's going to make this so much simple for you, so much more simple for you moving forward if you decide to keep taking gear. So that's going to be the end of that one. Now, if you guys liked, of course, like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments. The account is new on YouTube, so I am responding to all comments. So make sure that you comment, like, and subscribe, and I will be back very soon with some heat. Our next topic is going to be nutrition and training optimization pre-cycle to build the best natural foundation you possibly can, and so that your cycle, you get the most benefits and optimal results out of the blast. So that is going to conclude that, guys. The next one's going to come in hot. I will see you guys later. Peace.